America is not in trouble. It's in free fall. Over 90 million Americans can't afford rent or utilities. 1 in 4 is skipping prescriptions. Suicides just hit a 50-year high. Child poverty doubled in 12 months. And the elites? They're buying bunkers, gold, farmland, and silence. You're being distracted while the system quietly collapses around you. This isn't about left or right. This is about who survives what's coming. Because millions of Americans are about to snap, and the terrifying part, that might be exactly what they want. Americans are being slowly financially strangled, and they're just starting to notice. You ever felt like you're doing everything right, working harder, spending less, sacrificing more, yet somehow you're falling further behind? That's not paranoia. That's the system working exactly as designed. Right now, 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and that's not just low-income workers anymore. We're talking middle-class, dual-income households. Engineers, teachers, nurses, people with degrees, experience, and solid jobs are now skipping meals to keep the lights on. Food prices are still up 25% compared to just a few years ago. Rent has jumped an average of 30% in urban areas, and health insurance deductibles have quietly doubled. And don't even get me started on credit card interest. It's now averaging over 24%, the highest in U.S. history. But here's the kicker. At the same time that Americans are drowning in debt just trying to survive, the federal government has printed and spent trillions, handing it to megabanks, defense contractors, and Silicon Valley pet projects. You feel poor because you are poor on paper, in reality, and in comparison. And while you're being lectured to budget better, the elite are gobbling up real estate, farmland, and shares of private companies like they know something's coming. They do. The middle class is being dismantled brick by brick. And here's the quiet part they don't want you to hear. This isn't a soft landing. This is the long, brutal bleed-out of an entire economic class. You're not imagining it. The shelves have fewer options. Your bills are silently spiking, and companies are testing to see how far they can push before you scream. People aren't snapping over nothing. They're snapping because the invisible rope around their neck is finally starting to pull, and every single day it tightens just a little more. There's a silent epidemic of mental collapse, and no one's treating it. You want to know why more Americans are snapping? Look around. This isn't just about money. It's about the psychological unraveling of an entire nation. Right now, the CDC reports that over 1 in 3 Americans under 35 have symptoms of anxiety or depression. But here's the thing. Those are just the ones who admit it. Talk to anyone in a break room, a parking lot, or a school drop-off line, everybody's fried. And it's not just the unemployed. Teachers are quitting mid-semester. Parents are having breakdowns in grocery store aisles. Even kids are losing it. In 2023, more than 1 in 5 high schoolers seriously considered suicide. That's not normal. But the system's answer? Throw some pills at it. Throw some apps at it. Take a walk. Journal. Have a green smoothie. Are you kidding me? We are being emotionally flattened by impossible schedules, shrinking incomes, digital overstimulation, and constant bad news, and the solution is calm breathing exercises. Americans are being hit from every angle: financial stress, social isolation, political chaos, broken families, untreated trauma, and all the safety nets are gone. Churches are empty, local communities have been shattered, and now you can't even afford therapy. Want to see a counselor? That'll be $150 a session if you can get one. People are internalizing all of this pressure, and eventually it explodes. Road rage, domestic violence, silent suicides, public meltdowns, it's happening every single day. And you know what? The people at the top love it. A stressed-out, drugged-up, emotionally wrecked public is easy to control. They won't organize. They won't resist. They'll just scroll, snack, snap, and shut down. So if you're feeling like something is deeply wrong inside your mind, your home, your workplace, you're not broken. The system is, and it's cracking all of us, one fragile mind at a time. Our cities are rotting, and no one's coming to save them. It used to be that cities were the crown jewels of America, centers of culture, business, innovation. But now, more and more American cities look like collapsed dominoes, vacant, violent, hollowed out. San Francisco, once a tech utopia, now has more open-air fentanyl markets than functioning public restrooms. Philadelphia's Kensington neighborhood looks like something out of a zombie film. People slumped over, needles dangling, trash swirling in the wind. And it's not just the big ones. Mid-sized cities like St. Louis, Portland, and Cleveland are seeing massive retail closures, rising homicides, and mass homelessness. And no, it's not just bad luck. It's policies. It's defunded police departments, revolving door justice systems, tax hikes on small businesses, and handouts that reward collapse instead of fixing it. Walgreens and CVS aren't pulling out of downtowns because of competition. They're pulling out because it's too dangerous to operate. In 2024 alone, over 3,000 chain retail stores closed in urban areas. And when the last pharmacy leaves and the grocery store shutters, who suffers? The rich? No. They're behind gates. It's the single moms, the disabled, the elderly, trapped in a food desert, surrounded by crime with no services left. Infrastructure is falling apart. Public transit is unsafe. Ambulance response times are creeping toward 20+ minutes in many metro areas. Meanwhile, mayors post rainbow flags and host DEI panels while their streets are literally burning. And guess what? The federal government isn't going to save your city. FEMA can't even handle a flood, let alone a societal implosion. Your city is on its own. And if you live in one, you need to know there is no cavalry coming. People are fleeing in droves to rural towns, hoping to escape the madness. But not everyone can leave. Some are stuck. And those people? They're snapping. Because they see what's coming. And they realize they're going to be left behind in a crumbling urban wasteland with nothing but fear, fentanyl, and boarded-up windows for company. The family unit is disintegrating, and the fallout is everywhere. You want to see what really breaks a nation? It's not just a bad economy or political division. It's the death of the family. And right now, that collapse is not just underway. It's accelerating. We're living through a full-blown social demolition, and nobody wants to talk about it. In 1960, nearly 9 in 10 kids were raised in a two-parent household. Today, it's barely 1 in 2, and falling. Over 18 million children in America are growing up without a father in the home. That's not just a statistic, that's the root of half the chaos we're seeing right now. Kids raised without strong family structures are twice as likely to drop out of school, 3 times as likely to end up in jail, and 7 times more likely to experience teenage pregnancy or substance abuse. This isn't about blame. It's about cause and effect. Our culture has made the traditional family structure optional at best, and obsolete at worst. They told us independence was freedom, that commitment was oppression, that tradition was outdated. But what they didn't say is that millions of people would be left completely alone, raising kids on their own, managing trauma without help, navigating life without guidance. You think loneliness is just about social media? No, it's structural. And you're seeing the results in crime stats, graduation rates, addiction, and skyrocketing mental health breakdowns. Even marriages that survive are hanging on by a thread. Marriage rates are at their lowest in U.S. history, and divorce remains a 50-50th gamble. Families aren't raising kids anymore. YouTube is. TikTok is. The public school system is. And for millions, the most consistent voice in their life isn't a parent, it's an algorithm. And don't be fooled, this collapse isn't accidental. When people don't have family, they turn to the state, to pills, to screens. And that makes them easier to manage. You think the government wants strong fathers and tight-knit families? No, they want isolated individuals, desperate for help, compliant by necessity. That's how you manufacture obedience. Break the family, and you break the backbone of America. And that's why millions of people are snapping, because they're trying to survive the fallout of a society that has torn down the one institution that actually gave them strength. Our jobs are being replaced, and no one's sounding the alarm. You've probably heard people talking about AI like it's some far-off threat, like maybe your grandkids might have to deal with it someday. But the truth is, it's already here. And it's already killing jobs. Not the factory ones. Those are gone. I'm talking about the safe ones. The white-collar ones. Jobs in finance, law, education, journalism. Goldman Sachs estimates that AI could replace up to 300 million full-time jobs worldwide, and the U.S. is at the front of the line. Already, companies like IBM, Klarna, and Duolingo are laying off entire departments and replacing them with bots. ChatGPT isn't just writing blog posts. It's taking over customer service, code debugging, resume screening, even medical transcription. And the craziest part? Most Americans have no clue how fast this is moving. CEOs are bragging about how they can replace 3 workers with 1 prompt engineer and save $500,000 a year. Do you think they care about your mortgage? Your kids? Your loyalty? Please, you are data to them. Replaceable, disposable, invisible. And it's not just the layoffs, it's the dehumanization. Jobs that aren't eliminated are becoming unbearable. Warehouse workers tracked by wrist sensors. office staff monitored by keyboard timers, Uber drivers manipulated by algorithms, teachers forced to input lesson plans into surveillance software. The dignity of work is being destroyed. And here's the sinister twist: they're blaming you. You need to learn to code. You should have upskilled. What they don't say is that the game was rigged from the start. No amount of online courses is going to save a career that's been automated out of existence. And meanwhile, the people profiting from all this? They're investing in robot dogs, biometric scanners, and AI-generated influencers. This isn't progress. It's the erasure of the American worker. And millions are snapping because deep down, they see what's happening. They're not just losing jobs. They're losing purpose, identity, respect. And nobody's coming to stop it. Because in this new economy, humans are overhead, and AI never needs a lunch break. The healthcare system is collapsing, and you're next. If you think you're still protected by the American healthcare system, buckle up. Because it's not just expensive anymore, it's imploding. Right now, over 100 million Americans are saddled with medical debt. Not credit card debt, not car loans, medical debt. Debt from being sick, debt from being alive. And while hospitals rake in billions, yes, billions, people are skipping chemo, avoiding insulin, and dying at home because they can't afford to walk into an ER. And if you do manage to get inside one, prepare to wait. National average ER wait time is now over 2.5 hours, and in some cities it's pushing 6 to 8 hours. And it's not just because of COVID. It's because nurses are quitting in droves. Over 500,000 nurses are expected to leave the profession by the end of 2025. Doctors are burning out, rural hospitals are closing, and meanwhile private equity firms are buying up clinics, stripping them for profit, and closing them like fast food chains. You ever notice how hard it is to talk to a real doctor now? How everything is portals, bots, and outsourced help desks? That's by design. You're not a patient anymore. You're a revenue stream. And if you don't have the right insurance or enough money, you're invisible. AI is being rolled out to replace radiologists, therapists, even triage nurses. Not to improve care, but to cut costs. And people are dying because of it. Real talk. America is the only developed country where getting sick is a financial death sentence. A 2023 Gallup poll found that 38% of Americans skipped medical care last year due to cost. That's 1 in 3. And while the pharmaceutical companies jack up prices and insurance CEOs cash million-dollar bonuses, people are rationing inhalers, using GoFundMe for surgeries, and dying because they couldn't afford a $15 copay. Americans are snapping because they're realizing the brutal truth. In this system, your health is a liability. If you're poor and sick, you're expendable. And if you're healthy, they'll sell you fear until they break you. This isn't healthcare. It's a high-stakes casino where the house always wins. We're losing control of what our kids learn, and it's not an accident. If you still believe you have full control over what your kids are being taught, you're about 5 years too late. The American education system isn't just slipping, it's been hijacked. We've gone from teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic to pushing identity ideology, globalist propaganda, and test prep obedience in underfunded classrooms led by teachers who are often too burned out or too afraid to push back. Think I'm exaggerating? Go read your district's curriculum. In states like California, gender theory is taught as early as kindergarten, while reading scores for fourth graders have plummeted, dropping in 30 states in just the past year according to the nation's report card. And don't even try asking questions. Parents who speak up at school board meetings are now being monitored by federal agencies under domestic extremism policies. This is not about education anymore. This is about indoctrination and control. You think your kids are just falling behind in math and English? Guess again. They're being conditioned to obey, to defer to digital authority, to see traditional values as dangerous. And behind the scenes, the real power isn't teachers, it's big tech. Billion-dollar contracts with Google, Microsoft, and Pearson control everything from lesson plans to data collection. Your child is a data farm, tracked, scored, profiled by software you never agreed to. And don't expect escape. Homeschooling is under increasing attack, with some states trying to limit it or force standardized digital tracking systems even at home. And the push for AI in education? It's not about personalization, it's about replacement. In some districts, chatbots are grading assignments, recommending disciplinary action, and even conducting empathy training. If that sounds dystopian, it's because it is. Millions of parents are waking up to the horrifying reality that they don't recognize the values being fed to their children, and the system isn't just ignoring them, it's fighting them. When your own kids come home confused, anxious, or unrecognizable, and you're told to just accept it, that's when people snap. And it's happening now. In classrooms, kitchens, and school drop-off lines all across America. Surveillance isn't coming, it's already here. They told us it was for safety, for convenience, for better shopping, faster service, smoother apps. But now you can't walk through a city, shop at a major retailer, or even drive your car without being tracked, scanned, and recorded in real time. This isn't a conspiracy theory anymore. It's a corporate government collaboration. Amazon's Ring cameras are linked directly to police departments in over 2,000 U.S. cities. License plate readers are scanning millions of plates a day, feeding data into fusion centers that track movement across states. And facial recognition? It's already being used at airports, stadiums, and concerts without your consent. TSA recently admitted to scanning millions of Americans' faces during check-in. You didn't sign a waiver. You didn't get a choice. You were just scanned. And what's more shocking is how normalized it's become. Nobody bats an eye when stores install cameras that follow your eyes down every aisle, or when your phone asks if you want to enable location tracking for a better experience. Every major tech platform you use, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google, is feeding your behavior into AI models that predict your every move. And here's what nobody wants to admit. This isn't just about ads. It's about compliance engineering. You are being studied, nudged, emotionally manipulated by machine learning systems that know more about you than your family does. And if you think turning off your phone or deleting an app solves it, you're wrong. Your car, fridge, TV, thermostat, even your kids' toys, many are loaded with microphones, sensors, and data collection APIs. And while you're being told to trust the process, agencies like the NSA, DHS, and countless corporate data brokers are building profiles on you that would make Orwell blush. And now digital ID is coming. Biometric passports, health credentials, AI-driven credit scoring. Not just for travel, but for banking, for renting, for working. When everything is digital and everything is tracked, guess what happens when you step out of line? Your access gets shut off. Ask the Canadians who had their bank accounts frozen during protests. Americans are starting to realize this isn't freedom anymore. It's a velvet prison. And when they fully grasp what they've allowed in, that quiet dread, it turns to rage. And that's when things snap. We're being conditioned to accept chaos as the new normal. Here's the most chilling part of all this. Americans are being trained to accept breakdown, to accept decay, to accept dysfunction, not as a problem to be solved, but as the new baseline. Think about it. When did you start thinking it was normal for every flight to be delayed, every package to be late, every customer service call to take 2 hours? When did potholes, power outages, and random violence become things you just shrug off? When did we start expecting food shortages? Baby formula gone, eggs overpriced, tampons missing from shelves. And you said, yeah, that's just how it is now. No, it's not. This is manufactured dysfunction. And it's everywhere. The IRS loses your paperwork. The DMV system is down. The banks are randomly freezing Zelle transfers and flagging deposits for review. Meanwhile, the subway smells like fentanyl, the police are told to stand down, and your neighbor's kid is now a drug dealer on Snapchat. And every time you ask, why is this happening? You get a shoulder shrug. Supply chains, global issues, staffing shortages. No, it's intentional degradation. The slower, more frustrating, more unpredictable your life becomes, the easier it is to distract, divide, and dominate you. It's the psychological warfare of inconvenience. You become so mentally exhausted by the 1,000 little failures each day that you stop asking big questions. You stop resisting. You stop hoping. And this state of learned helplessness, that's where the system wants you. Constantly busy, constantly tired, constantly adjusting your expectations down. And here's the twisted part. When someone does snap, the media blames them. Oh, they were unstable. They were radicalized. They were selfish. No, maybe they were sane enough to scream when everyone else stayed silent. Because America isn't collapsing like a building. It's collapsing like a routine. Slowly, boringly, daily, until one day it's just gone. And a growing number of people are looking around and saying, I can't take this anymore. That's not instability. That's clarity. And it's spreading. The government is gearing up for something. And you're not supposed to ask what. So have you noticed it too? The quiet stockpiling. The sudden urgency. The eerie silence from the very people who are supposed to tell you what's coming. You're not crazy. Something is building. Right now, the U.S. government is buying up emergency supplies fast. The Department of Homeland Security just placed an open-ended contract for $2.5 billion worth of anti-radiation drugs. Why? Because of a single threat? A fluke? No. Because somewhere behind the scenes, they're planning for impact. FEMA is quietly expanding its emergency stockpiles, not just for hurricanes and fires, but for mass casualty scenarios. And meanwhile, they're converting old Walmarts, abandoned malls, even parts of decommissioned military bases into community resilience centers, which sounds nice until you realize these are government-controlled lockdown zones for urban emergencies. But it's not just physical prep. Financially, the Fed is stress-testing banks against cyber attacks and civil unrest scenarios. And here's the punch in the gut. They're telling Wall Street the truth, but not you. You want to know why the IRS just hired 87,000 new agents? Or why the Pentagon is building out AI systems to monitor domestic sentiment? Because they know what's coming, and they know people are going to lose it. But what exactly are they preparing for? A collapse? A war? A massive blackout? The truth is, they don't need one big event. They've created 1,000 small ones. Economic chaos, social disintegration, infrastructure breakdown, food insecurity, energy instability. What they're really prepping for is your reaction. They know that if Americans ever put all the pieces together, the fraud, the abuse, the betrayal, they won't just protest, they'll revolt. And every single law passed in the last 5 years has quietly prepared for that. Expanded surveillance powers, domestic anti-extremism language, financial blacklists, state-run digital ID trials. Look them up. You're not imagining this. You're being conditioned to stay compliant when the bottom drops out. And the terrifying part? Millions of Americans are still asleep, still watching Netflix, still arguing about pronouns, still pretending the house isn't burning. But others, you, maybe are starting to feel it. That tension in the air, that creeping sense that everything you were told to rely on is about to vanish. And that realization, that moment of clarity when people finally say enough, that's when things really snap. And no one, not the banks, not the bureaucrats, not the billionaires, will be able to put it back together again.